Welcome back to Plan Life Right, where we expose the wealth strategies the ultra rich don't want you to know about. I'm Kevin Ross.
And I'm Matt Floyd. Kevin, I got to ask you something that's been bugging me since our last conversation off air.
What is it?
You mentioned that you help business owners save literally millions in taxes. And honestly, it sounded too good to be true. I mean, if there's some magical way to avoid taxes, wouldn't everyone be doing it?
That's exactly what some of my clients have said before I showed them the math. And here's the thing, everyone isn't doing it because most people get their financial advice from people who've never actually built wealth themselves.
Okay, so enlighten me. What's this secret sauce?
Well, man, it's not really a secret at all. In fact, it's hiding in plain sight. Do you know how much life insurance banks own?
Life insurance? Kevin, we're talking about building wealth, not buying insurance.
Yeah, exactly my point. Banks own about 160 plus million in life insurance. Disney has over 2 billion. Walmart, Bank of America, they're all doing this. You think they're worried about death benefits?
Well, wait, hold on. Why would Disney need life insurance on their executive?
They don't need the insurance, Matt. They want the tax-free compounding. See, they figured out something most entrepreneurs haven't. The best investment returns in the world don't mean jack if Uncle Sam's taking 30% off the top.
So you're telling me this is really about taxes, not insurance.
Well, I think so. Yes, bingo. Let's say, because, let me just paint this picture this way. You got two millionaires, okay? Both are smart, both are disciplined. They each invest $1 million at 6% annual growth.
Okay, I'm with you.
Millionaire one puts his money in a taxable brokerage account. Millionaire two uses the same strategy as Disney and puts his money in a properly designed cash value life insurance
And
policy.
they're getting the same growth rate, 6%.
Same growth rate. 20 years later, millionaire has 2.2 million after taxes. The second millionaire two, he has about 3.2 million tax
Wait,
free.
that's $1 million difference from what did you call it?
It's changing the tax wrapper is what I like to
Okay.
call it. Same money, same growth, different tax treatment.
And that's massive, Kevin.
And we're just getting started. When we come back, I'm going to show you how one business owner used this strategy to buy 3 rental properties without touching her original investment. Don't go anywhere. This is Plan Life Right.
Welcome back to Plan Life Right. Before the break, Kevin dropped a bombshell that you can create $1 million difference just by changing your tax wrapper. Kevin, you promised me a story about rental properties.
Right. So, again, I had a client, let's call her Jennifer. She owned a consulting firm. Uh, she's she'd been investing about $200,000 a year in taxable accounts for a little more than 3 years. Smart woman, but she was getting killed on taxes.
How killed on tax?
She was effectively giving the IRS 30 cents on every dollar growth. So when we restructured her approach using cash value life insurance, something beautiful happened in year 4.
I'm listening.
She saw a perfect rental property, 400,000, great cash value, but instead of liquidating her investments and paying capital gains, she borrowed the 400,000 against her policy.
So she borrowed against her own money.
Technically, she borrowed from the insurance company using her cash value as collateral. But here's the magic. Her original money kept compounding as if she never touched it.
So she owns a rental property and her money is still growing.
Exactly. And 18 months later, she did it again, then again. And now 3 properties later, 1.2 million in real estate and her original policy values has actually grown as well because she never interrupted the compounding.
It sounds like financial wizardry.
It's called the velocity of money, Matt. $1 doing multiple jobs. The wealthy have been doing this for over a century now.
But Kevin, there's got to be a catch. I mean, what about the loan interest?
Great question, Matt. She's paying about 5% interest to the insurance company, but the policy's growing tax free, remember?
Mhm.
And her rental properties are cash flowing and appreciating. So the math works out
Yeah,
beautifully.
making money 3 ways or something.
Yeah.
And if she'd done this, out of her traditional brokerage account, what would happen?
Okay, so she would have had to pay capital gains taxes to liquidate, lost the compound growth, and had all her eggs in that stock market basket. So this way, she's diversified across multiple assets or asset classes while maintaining tax-free growth.
So I have to ask, and our listeners are probably thinking this too, why isn't every financial advisor talking about it?
Matt, because I how much life insurance does your typical financial advisor sell? I mean, you
Now,
talk to them every
I
day.
talk to them all day long. Most of them sell none.
Right. And so they're trained to sell, back in the day, they're selling mutual funds, now some ETFs. They make their money when you buy what they're selling. It's kind of always been they made a commission when they sell. Now we're doing more managed money, and that's all fine. But let's be brutally honest here. Most advisors are managing other people's money because they've never had to build wealth themselves.
That's actually a fair point.
So I had an advisor tell a mutual fund client that life insurance was too expensive. The OA Williams buy term, invest the rest, which
Right.
is majorly flawed.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. The advisor was managing 2 million for the client and charging 1% annually. It's fair. But that's 20,000 a year in fees, Matt. By the client's policy cost, that's like was like building, tax-free wealth right there.
Yeah. So it's more of a perspective problem.
I think it's an education problem. Traditional advisors see life insurance as insurance. I see it as the most tax efficient wealth accumulation vehicle available to high earners.
Speaking of high earners, what income level does this make sense for?
Generally, Matt, if you're making $500,000 or more and you're already maxing out your traditional retirement accounts, you're a candidate, especially if you're a business owner with variable incomes.
So why business owners specifically?
It's cash flow flexibility. Some years you might want to put in, say, 50,000. Other years maybe 4 or 500,000. So you try doing that in a 401k, you can't. IRS wouldn't lose it. But business owners understand leveraging assets better than W-2 employees.
That makes sense. When we come back, Kevin's going to share a story that might make you reconsider everything you think you know about life insurance timing. Stay with us. This is Plan Life Right. We're back with Plan Life Right. Kevin, you've been hinting at a story that demonstrates timing. Lay it on us.
Oh, this one's tough, Matt, but it illustrates why procrastination is the enemy of wealth building. I had a potential client, let's call her Lisa, 38 years old. She owned a marketing agent. She's doing quite well. She's doing about 1.2 million annually.
That's solid income.
Very solid. And I met her 2017, 18, somewhere in there. And I showed her exactly what we've been discussing, the tax savings, the velocity of money, the whole strategy. The whole strategy. She was really, I think pretty fascinated. But of course, she gave that old objection that we've done podcasts on, and she wanted to think about it.
And let me guess, she thought about it too long.
6 months of thinking, and this was actually 2019, think about it. Then COVID hit. So,
Oh.
like in March, April, they shut everything down. So it was probably like November of 19. She called me back. She was ready to move forward because I guess, because everything changed. She looked at it again.
And better late than never?
That's what I thought, because it was a real strange time back then. So we started the application process, medical exams ordered. Of course, all that was being delayed. So things that would happen, the very next week or 2 weeks were now months or two
Right.
out. The financials were looking pretty good. And then 2 weeks, before the policy was going to be approved, I was hoping she found a lump, just doing during her annual exam. So,
Oh, no. Yeah.
yeah. So it was breast cancer, stage 2, but treatable.
Right.
Here's the heartbreaking part. If she pulled the trigger when we first met, so back October, November of 19, she'd have been covered. The policy would have been in force.
So what happened to her application?
Well, it got declined.
Yep. That's a knockout. Cancer's a knockout.
Not a good thing. So no life insurance company is going to touch someone with an active cancer diagnosis. You know that.
Right.
But here's what really hurt. She didn't just lose the life insurance, she lost access to the wealth strategy.
So explain that part.
So, man, if she'd had the policy in force, she could have accessed, hard word for me today, the cash value tax free to pay for treatment, maintain her lifestyle, even keep her business running if she needed time off. Instead, she had to liquidate some of her taxable investments and, of course, pay those capital gains.
Right. So the procrastination cost her multiple ways.
Yeah, let me quantify it. From our first meeting to now, her delay cost her approximately, I think I figured like 800,000 in tax-free wealth accumulation, plus the loss of 2 million in life insurance protection, plus the inability to access funds tax-free during her treatment or down the road.
So basically, she lost nearly $3 million. That was the total impact.
Yeah, about 3 million, you're right, at a minimum. And here's the kicker. She's going to beat the cancer. That's the best thing, right? She's strong. She caught it early. Great treatment plan, but she'll never be insurable at the preferred or even standard rates at this point.
Right. And that's devastating, especially to a wealth strategy.
Right. So, it's a reminder that insurability is precious, Matt. You can't buy it when you need it. You have to buy it when you don't think you need it, which is why we've called this podcast Playing Life Right.
Right. Well, how's Lisa doing now?
So great news. She's cancer free for, gosh, I think she finished a year ago. So let's call it 18 months, plus stronger than ever. But she still tells everyone she meets, don't wait. And she's referred me, if Kevin shows you the math and it makes sense, do it now.
And that's powerful, Kevin. That raises an important point about health and timing. What should people know?
I think life insurance underwriting is about your health today, not your health when you need the benefit, right?
Right.
Every day you wait is another day something could change, and life happens fast.
And it's not just major health issues, right?
Exactly. High blood pressure, had to deal with that. Diabetes, even sleep apnea can affect your rates or insurability. So I've seen people decline for things they've considered minor.
And what about age?
Well, age is brutal in life insurance, as you know. A 35-year-old pays significantly less than a 45-year-old for the same coverage. And remember, we're not just buying insurance, we're buying decades of tax-free compounding.
So starting earlier compounds in multiple ways.
Yeah, you got lower premiums, more years of tax-free growth, and most importantly, you lock in your insurability, while you're building your money.
And Kevin, let's talk numbers. What does waiting actually cost?
It's a great question, Matt. Let's use some round numbers, keep it simple. So you got a healthy 35-year-old putting $100,000 annually into a properly designed policy. So over those 30 years, that's about 8.2 million in tax-free wealth.
Like a long play lottery ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what happens if they wait 10 years?
All right, so let's look at the 45-year-old. Got higher premiums, first of all. It's only 20 years of compounding, and they end up with just about 4.8 million. Still good, but waiting costs them 3.4 million.
And that's expensive procrastination.
Yeah, and it doesn't even factor in potential health changes, right? Lisa's stories isn't unique, Matt. I see it all the time. We hear it all the time now. People who understand this strategy intend to implement it, but wait for the perfect time.
And when is that perfect time?
Perfect time was 10 years ago. The second best time is today.
Yeah. So coming up after the break, Kevin's going to share exactly how to evaluate if this strategy makes sense for you, plus some advanced techniques that ultra wealthy use that'll blow your mind. Don't touch that dial. This is Plan Life Right. Welcome back to Plan Life Right. Kevin, you promised some advanced strategies. What are the ultra wealthy doing that most people don't even know about?
All right, Matt. So this is where it gets, I guess, a little sophisticated. Ever heard of split dollar arrangements?
That one is new to me. I haven't heard of that one yet.
It's a way for business owners to have their company pay for their personal life insurance while maintaining all the tax benefits. So the business gets a tax deduction, the owner gets tax-free wealth accumulation.
The business pays for the personal policy.
Yeah, it's more nuanced than that, but essentially, yes, the business might pay 200,000 in premiums annually, deducted as a business expense, while the owner builds personal wealth tax-free.
That sounds almost too good to be
Yeah,
true.
it's legitimate and it's also complex. You need the right legal structure. You've got to have the proper documentation and someone who understands both the insurance and the tax law.
So, what else are the ultra wealthy doing?
So there's multi-generational strategies. Instead of one policy, they're setting up policies on children and grandchildren when they're young and super healthy.
Or why would you want to insure a child?
You lock in their insurability,
Mm.
decades of compound growth, and then designed properly, it becomes a family bank. Child grows up with access to tax-free capital for college, business ventures, home purchases, all while the death benefit protects the family wealth.
So it's you could say it's like a financial gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly. I've got clients that fund like 50,000 annually on their 10-year-old. By the time that child's 30, get this, it's over 2 million of tax-free cash value.
That's incredible. What about like business application?
So, one of the things that's big out there is key person insurance or key man insurance, which is obvious, but business owners are also using these policies to fund buy sell agreements or defer comp plans, even as collateral for business loans.
What explain the collateral for loans part.
So banks love cash value life insurance as collateral. It's liquid, it's predictable, and if something happens to the borrower, the loan gets paid off as a death benefit.
So the bank can't lose.
Right. And what that means is business owners can often get better terms using their policy as collateral than traditional business loans.
Kevin, this is fascinating. But I imagine our listeners are wondering, how do I know if this makes sense for me?
That's a great question. Let's walk through the evaluation criteria. First, income. Are you making at least 500,000 annually with money left over after maxing out your retirement accounts?
And that's the floor?
Well, generally, obviously, you can do it for less, but for this example, so let's say yes. The key is you need to have enough excess income to fund the policy properly without affecting your lifestyle.
And then what's next?
Well, that's the tax situation. Are you paying significant taxes on investment growth? If you're in low tax brackets, this strategy obviously is less compelling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But third, it's the time horizon. This is a long term strategy. If you need the money back in 5 years, this isn't for you, which is why that whole be your own bank kind of blows itself up.
Right.
Right.
But how long term are we talking here?
Oh, I like to say, think decades, not years. The tax benefits and the compound growth they need time to work their magic. Like baking a cake, you don't put the cake in there for 15 minutes and pull it out.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, just left with ingredients.
Right. Exactly.
Is there a fourth criteria?
Of course, health and then insurability. Right? Can you qualify for life insurance at reasonable rates? And there's no point designing a strategy around something you can't even attain. Right?
Right. And finally,
You got to You got to have an understanding and a commitment. This isn't a set it and forget it. You
right.
need to understand how it works and be committed to funding it consistently.
So kind of like it's not a diet, it's a whole lifestyle change. It's not something you're going to do for a little while and then go back to the way you were. This is a whole new way of going about life.
Yeah, if you're going to do a 10 pay of $100,000 a year, you're committing essentially $1 million to be paid out over a 10-year period,
Right.
right?
So
So
that's a decade you were talking about.
that's the decade. So you're funding it for 10 years. You could continue or you can stop. But I always like to do a 10 pay to say, hey, look here, we max fund this here. Um, or have some flexibility in here. If you want to continue to do it, you can, but you don't have to. That's the
Right.
advantage there.
So it's not for everyone.
It's definitely not, but for the right person, it's transformational. I'd rather work with someone who truly understands and commits than someone who does it kind of half-heartedly, because we've seen those just blow up.
Right. Well, what about existing life insurance? Should people cancel what they have?
Well, it depends on the policy. Many people have old term policies or poorly designed whole life policies, and those aren't optimized for wealth accumulation.
Can those be fixed?
Sometimes you can do 1035 exchanges, which allows you to
We'll do
transfer.
a whole podcast on exactly what that is. Don't worry about it.
You did 235 exchanges, allows you to transfer cash value from an old policy to a new one without triggering taxes. But again, it requires careful analysis.
Well, Kevin, we're running out of time here, but I have to ask, what's your biggest piece of advice for someone considering this?
Well, I'd say don't wait for the perfect understanding or the perfect timing, because that never happens. If the math makes sense and you qualify, you need to move forward. I've never had a client who implemented this strategy properly tell me that they wish they'd waited longer.
Right.
They've never heard that.
And what's the other than waiting? What's the
Well,
biggest mistake that you
and I've
see?
used this term many a times. You heard analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis. You know, people who understand this strategy, they see the benefits, but they keep researching instead of implementing, right? At every month of delay is compound growth that you never get back.
When we come back, we're going to wrap up with specific action steps for our listeners. This is Plan Life Right. Don't go anywhere. We're back for our final segment of Plan Life Right. Kevin, this has been eye-opening, but I know our listeners are thinking, okay, this sounds great, but what do I do now?
So Matt, here's what I want everyone to do. First, calculate your current tax drag.
Right.
Okay. Look at your taxable investment returns and figure out, what you're really keeping after taxes.
Yeah, step one, figure out where you're at right now.
Bingo. Step two, evaluate your insurability. If you're healthy now, I don't assume you'll be healthy next year. Time is not your friend with life insurance.
Yeah, most people don't go to the doctor or find out they're going to live longer than they thought.
That's right.
What's step three?
You find someone who understands wealth accumulation through life insurance. Of course, you can go to Plan Life Right. We can arrange that for you. And listen, life insurance is not just death benefits. That's what we talked about all the time. They just sell it as a death benefit, not a wealth accumulation. So you got to add, if you're working with someone or you got to ask them this. You got to, how much do they personally own? If they don't practice what they preach, find someone else. I mean, that's why I would recommend clicking on Plan Life Right. We
Yeah.
can
So,
put
I
those
mean,
structures
if your
together.
agent, if first question he asks you is, how much coverage are you looking for?
Yeah,
Leave.
yeah,
Go get
leave.
a new one.
He's just selling you a death benefit.
Yeah. If your agent says, how much cash would you like to have access to in the next 10 years? You found your guy.
Exactly.
Go with him and do everything he says.
Yeah, right.
I know we have listeners in different situations. Some might be business owners who want to implement the strategy. Others might be financial professionals who want to learn how to present this to their clients. Where can they go?
For business owners and high income professionals ready to explore this strategy, head to planliferight.com. You can schedule a consultation where we'll run specific numbers and show you exactly what this could look like for your unique situation.
And what about advisors and agents who want to learn this approach?
Look, if you're a life insurance agent or a financial advisor who wants to learn how to present these strategies to business owners, how to speak their language, understand their mindset, and position life insurance as a wealth strategy rather than just protection, we've got comprehensive training at advisorrescue.net. So, Matt, here's what I want everyone listening to understand. Every single day that you leave money in taxable accounts and is another day of compound growth you're sharing with the IRS.
Yeah, the cost of waiting is real.
Yeah, it's not just real, it's expensive. I mean,
Real expensive.
remember Lisa's story. She understood the strategy. She had the income. She was healthy, but she waited. That delay cost her nearly $3 million in wealth accumulation and life insurance protection.
And she can never get that insurability back. She'll always be somebody that had cancer.
Yeah, never, But here's what's exciting. If you're listening to this right now and you still have time, you still have the opportunity to implement these strategies before something changes in your health, your income, or of course the tax laws.
And then speaking of the tax laws, could these benefits change?
Absolutely. Congress is always looking for ways, new revenue sources. The tax free nature of life insurance has been protected for over 100 years, but that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be protected forever.
And so there's urgency from multiple angles.
Yeah, health, age, tax law changes. The window of opportunity doesn't just stay open forever. The question isn't whether you'll eventually need life insurance or want tax free wealth accumulation. The question is whether you'll act while you still can.
Kevin, what are your final thoughts for our listeners?
Look, I've shown the math, I've shared some real stories, I've given you some strategies that the ultra wealthy use. The information's powerful, but information without implementation is really worthless.
So what's the first step?
First step's admitting that what you're doing now might not be the best you can do. The second step is getting your specific numbers run to see what this could look like for you.
And folks, whether you're a business owner ready to explore the strategy at planliferight.com or an advisor who wants to master these concepts at advisorrescue.net, the key is taking action.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you can't buy insurability when you need it. You have to buy it when you don't. You can recover lost years of compound growth, or cannot recover, excuse me, lost years of compound growth, and you can't get back the tax savings you missed while you were waiting for the perfect time.
Yeah, this has been an incredible episode. If this content opened your eyes to something new, make sure you like this episode, follow Plan Life Right, and subscribe so you never miss these wealth building insights.
And remember, friends, life happens fast, so you better plan it right.
We'll see you next time on Plan Life Right.
Until then, stay wealthy and stay healthy.